Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. Today we're taking a look at Scenic Dunsmouth, which is a adventure location by Zarkov Kowalski for Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Here's the back here. This is a copy that I picked up about a year ago at the last Gen Con. Before we get started, though, quick shout out to some of my new and upgraded patrons, including Jimmy Mickelson, Ricardo Sedan, Ardashir Leah, Randolph SC, Victor Singer, and Wanna Be Dead. Thanks so much for joining the Patreon and helping to support the channel. Patrons not only get to see these videos before they land on YouTube, but they also help me pick what books to review next from my backlog. If you're interested in helping to support the channel, head down to the description below. So this is an adventure, but really more specifically, it's a location. It is a randomly generated town. The name itself should give you a kind of clue as to the sort of adventure we're talking about here. Dunsmouth is pretty clearly a combination of Dunwich and Innsmouth, two different locations from H.P. Lovecraft's mythos. So this really has more in common with Innsmouth, I would say, in that it is a weird little village near the ocean full of strange hillbilly type characters, and there's a lot of evil, dark secrets brewing there that you can explore. And of course, things to loot as usual. The main feature here is that everything is randomly generated. We have some background on some of the main features, including the Time Cube, which is a weird alien artifact that's in a swamp nearby. And this thing slows down time, which means that the river flowing into this area is slowly turning into a swamp. And it causes everyone in the town to age much more slowly than everyone else. And there's other distortions involved as well. You can investigate this and mess around with it if you like, though of course there are often horrible implications. Some reasons why you might want to visit Dunsmouth. And we have a section on building the village. The main premise here is that almost certainly when you encounter Dunsmouth, it is part of a spider cult. A weird spider-like creature has infected one of the villagers, and this infection has spread to the rest of the village, who are now worshipping this giant spider, which has grown larger and larger over time. But not everyone is necessarily infected or knows about the cult. That's all going to be randomly determined. We have a general overview of how to build the village, and step by step going through how you would do this. One of the main features here is that it uses a dice drop system. So you're going to take a large handful of different types of dice, mostly D6s, but other stuff as well, and you're going to drop them on the table, and their locations, the type of dice, the number that is rolled, etc., is going to determine what that location is, who is there, and other features about it. A great place to start, actually, is to go to the back of the book. I remember that I started out by reading the front of it, where it kind of goes through basically what's going on here, but it was a little hard to visualize and just kind of overwhelming. Fortunately, at the very back of this book, we find a step-by-step example of the town being built. So here's an example setup. The dice are dropped down, and then it goes through each of these steps. So the step-by-step instructions is repeated here. With how this would apply in real life if you were actually building the town. This was enormously helpful to read, and I would recommend reading this section at the back of the book first, because it gives you a much clearer sense of how all the different pieces are going to fit together. A deck of cards is also required while you are creating this. That's going to help determine what NPCs are going to be at which locations. Some NPCs are sort of always there, though. So, for example, Uncle Ivanovic and Magda, Father Iwanopoulos, and there's some other locations that are commonly going to show up. These are some of the more prominent weird locations, often called kickers. The foundry, the inn. These are the landmarks that are weirder and different than just the typical houses, which the town is mostly made out of. This is definitely a horror module. So most of the people that you encounter are corrupted. They're part of a cult. There's a lot of weird family relationships, inbreeding, just all sorts of gross stuff that you might expect from a setting like this one. Obviously, you're going to have to tone that up or down depending on the kind of people that you're running with. So always know your players and the sort of things that they would enjoy. Most of the book is focused on the NPCs that you're going to find in the town. These are broken into the 4 different suits. For example, the Hearts are the Duncaster family. We have a general rundown of what they're like. And the pattern here is that the 2 red suits, the Hearts and the Diamonds, are mostly families that are somewhat friendly. This one, the Duncasters, are probably the most friendly. They're most outgoing, right? Hearts helps you remember that. The Diamonds is more of a posh upper class family, which again makes sense with diamonds. I like how the colors and the shapes of the suits help you remember what that family is like. And the other family is a bit snobbier, but not really aggressive, whereas the 2 black suits are much more dangerous. And the rank of the suit, starting with ace, king, and going down, kind of tells you the prominence of that NPC. So things are aces and face cards tend to be much more powerful or influential NPCs, and ones that are much lower tend to be poorer or more marginalized NPCs that don't have much of an impact on the setting. I really like the layout here. You have a picture of the card, which makes it easy to reference. You always have a portrait of the NPC. All the layout and art is done by Jez Gordon, who does a great job as usual. And then we have a layout or a rundown of what that NPC is like, including if they are infected or if they're not infected, because that will vary depending on the way that you roll up the town. The cool thing about the town being rolled up like this is that you can visit the town multiple times and it will be radically different. Even if players want to read this whole book, it's really not going to ruin a whole lot because there's no way to tell what the town's actually going to be like when they encounter it. Next, you have the Dunlop family, which, as I mentioned before, are the sort of posh, upper class type families. They're more standoffish, but you can weasel your way into their houses and into their lives if you pay them the proper deference, or perhaps if you fake the fact that you are more upper class than you seem. I actually had a lot of fun reading this. Most of the characters have interesting and unique backstories, personalities, and there's connections between all of them, so that no matter who you roll up and put into the town that you've randomly generated, you're going to kind of have this network of relationships. You're going to have families that have common themes and goals, and the town's going to come alive as you generate it. So we have the Samson family. So the Samsons are a bunch of xenophobic, angry, inbred hillbillies. So they fall right into that stereotype. The clubs help you remember that, right? They just have big clubs. They're into beating you. Some of these include 2 people. It's often couples, but sometimes it's just 1 person. Some of them are fairly harmless, but some of them are quite dangerous, or they have plans that they're trying to pull you into. And the Van Kaus family, or Van Kos family. The Van Kosses are proud, xenophobic, and respectable. So similarly, the way that the Diamond family was more upper class, this is also more upper class. There's a lot of just clever things worked into this, especially the way that the rank of the suit denotes how influential that family member is. One great piece of little body horror that's going to come up over and over is the fact that if the family is infected by the spider cult, there's a significant chance that if they have kids, those kids will have spider-like deformities, either extra arms, extra legs, extra eyes. These could be human limbs, they could be spider limbs, all sorts of horrible things. These are generally kept hidden from the public, but of course you can discover it. And I love this little bit at the back. The Kooks, failure to check the deck. So you're supposed to take the jokers out of the deck when you do this, but if you forget to take the jokers out, then these guys show up, and they often have, they're just very weird. Including if you have the rules for poker or the advertisement. So if you don't take those out, then even stranger things will start showing up in your town, and it's your fault for not checking the deck. Miscellanea at the back here, so just going into more detail about the town, including the history of the families and what they want. Some unique magic items that you can run into. Call of the Ages. You can. There's a spell for summoning a Dimetrodon. So who doesn't want to have a ancient dinosaur wandering around in your D&D setting? And then we have our step-by-step instructions here. and then some quick reference at the back, which is really great, just for the basic stats for most of the characters. Though since this is Lamentations of the Flame Princess, most of them are fairly generic level 0 characters, very easy to stat on the fly, but any ones that deviate from that get a little write-up here. And there we have it. So that is Scenic Dunsmouth. It is a unique little book. I love the way that it randomly generates the town, and I especially like the way that it actually gives you an example at the back so that you can do it yourself. This is a fun activity that you can do on your own as a solo activity, just to roll up the town and see what it's like. And then as you're doing that, you kind of piece together the relationships between all the different people, what they want, what's likely to happen when the PCs come to disturb the situation as you've set it up. It seems like a lot of fun. It's extremely clever. There's a lot of just great little bits of writing in there that are fun to read. Overall, a really enjoyable time. If you need a horrible, inbred little town full of dark secrets, it's hard to beat Scenic Dunsmouth. As usual, I will put links down in the description below for where you can check this out for yourself. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.